Hello everybody, I'm Pastoric, and I'm going to be taking you through a breadcrumb glitch any percent run of Mother 1. And so you might know this game as Earthbound Beginnings because that's what it was released as outside Japan, but in 1989 it was released for the Famicom as Mother. So that's the version I'm going to be playing on. Time is going to start when I reset the console, so I'm going to do that in 3, 2, 1, now. This category relies really heavily on RNG manipulation, and so one of the things that advances the RNG value is any time that's spent on a menu where you can select things. So that includes the character creation that you just saw me do. I make sure that I spend as little time as possible there, because that means that I know where I am in the RNG when I go and fight the enemies that are going to appear at the beginning of the game here. This is just a little bit of background for the story of the game. It tells you about how a man and his wife disappeared, and then 2 years later only the man reappeared, and that's kind of the mystery that you start out with. And so you do find out what happened, but we don't in this category. We don't find anything out because we just skip to the end of the game. Now we're gonna fight this lamb, and because when you're selecting what move you're gonna do, it is a menu, the RNG advances there. So I have to make sure that I spend the right amount of time on that menu so that I get 3 damage on each of the hits here and defeat the lamp in just 2 turns. And the other thing that advances the RNG is when you see NPCs moving around. So I have to make sure I take the same path and spend the same amount of time in that room with our sister just there. And then, right here, I need to line up the RNG right in this fight. So you saw me wait on that menu for a second for the cursor to flash, and that was to make sure that the RNG advanced enough. Because we need the RNG to be at a certain point so that we get the right stats when we level up after this fight. That's what all this manipulation has been for, is so that we gain a lot of HP after this fight. So you're going to see most of these are going to be 3, and then the HP is going to be 9, which is really great. There we go. And so that was the end of this major part of RNG manipulation. RNG is really present in all of this, but that's the end of the first tricky part. There's lots more tricky parts, don't worry. But now we're going to talk to our dad on the phone. He's going to tell us that these are possessions, and so in order to fix the possessions, we're going to have to go and find a key and get our great-grandfather's diary out of the basement, because our great-grandfather studied psychic powers. Except you may notice that we're just walking away from our house instead, and that is because we're not going to get our great-grandfather's diary, we're just going to leave. Normally you need the diary to unlock later parts of the game, but we don't reach those parts since we skip them, so there's no need for the diary. When we walked to town just then too, we walked through an encounter zone, and so that is another place where RNG advances. When you're in an encounter zone, the RNG gets rolled every time you take a step to check whether you should have an encounter with an enemy. Luckily, because of the way the RNG works at the beginning, we don't encounter any enemies if we walk out right after doing our fights. And so now we're going to get some cash out of the ATM, and we're going to use it to buy bread. Because this is the breadcrumb glitch category, and bread is very important for it. And the bread costs $30 here, which is a little bit pricey. But it is very useful bread, so I guess I can't really complain. Now I'm going to save the game, and I'm saving so I can reset, because that brings us back to a known RNG value, so that I can do this next part with consistent RNG. This next part is definitely the trickiest part of RNG manipulation here. I have to take a very particular path through town, because you'll see there's so many different NPCs. We want to make sure that we don't advance the RNG more than we have to. That boy just walked up and down, which is perfect. That means we have the right RNG right here. And now we're going to enter another encounter zone. So again, each step I take here advances the RNG. And so to avoid the encounters that I know are going to happen, I'm going to open the menu and close it again, because then the menu will advance the RNG past the point where we would have had an enemy encounter. And I also have to make sure to take the same path through this area so that I take the same number of steps every time. But now we're out of the first encounter zone. This part is not an encounter area, but we're going to walk right into another one here when we get past all the gravestones. This is another encounter zone, so I'm going to start using the menu opening again. And the way that I'm doing this so that it's a consistent amount of time that the menus open each time is I'm holding B down. If you hold B, then it opens the stats menu but also closes it immediately. And this is where we get into the trickiest part of this manipulation because these coffins here shake. And depending on the way that the frames are captured, you might not actually be able to see them. But trust me when I say the coffins are shaking, and it's rolling RNG continuously to determine if the coffins are shaking since they're treated like NPCs. So we just rescued Pippi. This is our whole goal. We wanted to get to Pippi. I have to make sure I'm spending the right amount of time on all of Pippi's menus and things like that. And now I'm going to wait for a very specific pattern in the coffins before leaving. And so that's right now. And so now we're out, and again, I know where we are in the RNG to be able to avoid the enemies. And so I'm going to use more menu opens to get out of the graveyard again without having any encounters. And so a little bit of backstory about Pippi. So Pippi went missing, and if we had talked to the mayor would have asked us to go find her, but we didn't talk to the mayor because we don't have to. So we just went and found her anyways, but we are still going to bring her back to the mayor because the mayor's goal here, the mayor heard that Pippi went missing and thought it would be really great if he could find her because that would really increase his chances of re-election. So he decided that the best plan was to ask Ninten, who just wandered in, a random child who just wandered into his office. He asks Ninten to go and find Pippi. And luckily for the mayor and for Pippi, we do find her, and we're going to bring her back. But before we bring her back to the mayor, we're going to do the most important thing for Breadcrumb Glitch, and that is to give Pippi some bread and have her make breadcrumbs with it. Because the way breadcrumbs work in this game, if you use bread to make a breadcrumb trail, then whenever you use the breadcrumbs again, it will take you back to the beginning of the trail. So wherever you make the trail, you can just warp back there. It's a one-time thing though. Once you use it up, you can't use it again. So we had Pippi make a breadcrumb trail. The interesting thing though is that Pippi's about to leave our party. And after she leaves our party, we can go and get any of the items that she had in her inventory. When we do that, we get the breadcrumbs back. But they aren't set to any location because Ninten has never used them. They're set to the default location for the breadcrumbs, and that happens to be out of bounds. So we're going to use breadcrumbs to get out of bounds that way. But first, before we do any of that, I just got $100 for returning Pippi to the mayor, so I'm going to go buy bread with it. Oop, if the NPC lets me. They like to walk away at the most inconvenient times. So I'm going to buy 3 more bread with my $100. Oops, not orange juice. The first one's orange juice. Don't want that. Oop. 3 more bread. And that will set us up for some things later. And then we're going to go find Pippi, and we're going to go and get our breadcrumbs back. We will have to pass through the encounter zone again, and hopefully we don't get too many encounters there. But since we're not doing an RNG manipulation anymore at this point, we're not able to avoid those very easily. Oh, okay, so here's an encounter. I'm just gonna run away. It's a stray dog. Oh no, another one. Okay, so this one's going to be a millipede. No, centipede. This one's a centipede. And I'm gonna run away from it again. But luckily we're at the end of the encounter area, so yeah, we should be able to get through it without having any more encounters. I'm gonna talk to Pippi and get the breadcrumbs, and then I'm going to use them to get out of bounds. And here we are. We're in the out of bounds area. It's a bunch of houses and a bunch of trees and a bunch of paths that lead to nowhere. And it is entirely gray. No color here. So I'm going to use the different houses and things as landmarks to find my way to a very specific spot. Because the way the out of bounds works, you can really get to most of the map just using the out of bounds. Because when you're out of bounds using breadcrumbs, you can also get back in bounds using breadcrumbs. You just have to go to the right value, the right coordinate for that. But right now, I'm going to be walking through this empty field for about 2 minutes until we reach the next landmark that I'm going to use to find where we're going to. So this is a really great time for any more donations, any incentive speed ride, any things like that, because like I said, it's about 2 minutes that we're going to be walking through an empty field. So pretty soon here I'm going to be coming up on another landmark. I'm going to reach another house, and then I'm going to use that to get to the exact place we need to be to get to the end of the game. And so here I'm going to count 12 tufts of grass from the house, and then move a little bit left. And like I said, we use breadcrumbs to get out of bounds, and we'll also use breadcrumbs to get back in bounds, because I'm going to use the breadcrumb, or use the bread to make a breadcrumb trail. The coordinates will be set to a location that actually is useful, and then when I use it again it will teleport us to that location, but in bounds with the map loaded. So now we just talked to Queen Mary, and that triggers the end of the game. And so we're gonna get teleported to a place where actually if you see the cave above us, we could actually walk there and fight the final boss right now. We could fight Geeg right now, but we're only level 2, so that would be really bad. So we're gonna level up a little bit first, but before we do that, I'm gonna take a death on purpose here. I'm gonna death warp back to a safe place to save, because I need to reset the RNG again. But it's okay, we used the breadcrumbs, so we can get back there. So here I save right here, and then I reset the console. And this time I'm gonna hold A on this menu so that it takes the right amount of time to select. I'm gonna do this as fast as possible, and then this will manipulate it so that the first enemy that I fight is a group of 4 starmen. And that's really important because earlier in the game we got a really important item. When I was talking to Pippi when I first found her, I answered 2 questions in the right way so that she gave us a Franklin badge. And the Franklin badge reflects specific abilities back on the enemies that attack us with them. And so in this case, we can reflect the Starmen's powers back on them so that they kill themselves. But we have to make sure that they only use the psychic power that we can reflect with the Franklin badge. And we have to make sure that we only fight Starmen, because otherwise we're only level 2 and we won't survive. So I'll go a little bit more into how the turn manipulation works on the next battle, because we're going to do 4 of these battles. But just remember that the amount of time we spend on the menus and the amount of time that we spend on the level up screens all determine what the RNG is. So the longer I spend on the level up screen here, the more the RNG advances, because it waits for your input every time it gives you a stat. So for this first round of level ups, we're going to level up all the way to level 11. And for this first round of level ups, I'm going to just hold A for it, so that each one takes the exact same amount of time. And so there will just be one more after this, because we're going to get to level 11. Then we're going to get 3 psi powers and a psi stone. So that's perfect. I'm going to open the menu twice here so that we avoid an encounter with something that's not a group of starmen. And then we're going to encounter another group of 4 starmen. And so the strategy here to make sure that they only use the right attack is to hold A and B at the same time, because then the game keeps trying to back out of the fight menu, but it can't because you're in a fight, so it backs out again and again. And by doing that a certain number of times, you see the cursor blinks and it makes a sound. By doing it a certain number of times, you can use it to make sure that you're at the right place in RNG so that they only use the attacks that can be reflected back by the Franklin badge. And so then for this level up, it's going to be a little more complicated. For the first round of level up, I just hold A. For this one, I wait until the 7th one, which is the upgrade for the psi power, and then I mash A here. And then for this one, I'm going to hold A for the first 4 and then mash it for the last ones. So that was good. Now I'm going to walk around just a little bit to get to the next encounter. And so here, for the first one, I'm going to hold it twice. So 1, 2, and then select attack. And that is the attack button I'm selecting. That's the attack command. We do attack, it just only does 1 damage, so it does us almost no good. Here I'm going to hold it for 7, and then attack. Here I'm going to hold it for 2. And then hold it for 5. It's okay that sometimes they don't do anything. That's better than them attacking us. And so then for this one, I'm going to hold it for the entirety of the first level up. And then I'm going to do, just like before, hold it for the first 4 and then mash. So mash here. And now it's really important that I don't spend too long on that level up because this next encounter happens really fast after it. So this is the last encounter. We fight the Starmen 4 times. And right here I'm going to hold it for the longest that I have out of all of them. I'm going to hold it for 12. And then for 3. And so then, after these last 4 Starmen are defeated, there's no need for any further RNG manipulation here because we have to go back. We have to go back to the department store anyways to set ourselves up for the final fight. So I can just mash through this last level up to get through it as fast as possible. And it's going to be 2 more levels so that we end at level 18. And so now I'm going to use breadcrumbs, bread to make breadcrumbs so that we can get back here. I'm going to check really quick to see what psi powers I have, because unfortunately one thing that we can't control with our RNG manipulations right now is which psi powers we get. Once you reach a certain level, you have the chance to learn that psi power that you would learn at that level. And if you don't, any encounter that you have after that, you also have a chance to learn that one. So because of the way it works, we need 2 very specific powers to defeat Geeg at the end. And so if we don't have them, we want to make sure that we get them from somewhere else by fighting other enemies. So unfortunately, I only have 1 of them here. I need Psi Shield and I need Quick Up, and I only have Quick Up. I need to get Psi Shield still. So we're going to take a death here to get back to the department store. And then we're going to do something about getting that last Psi ability that we have. And we're also going to set up our inventory for the final fight with Geeg. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab a bunch of cash. Because we're about to get rid of our cash card, so we need to make sure we have enough. And then I'm going to replenish my psi power. We got a psi stone in that fight, which replenishes psi power. So we're going to use it twice, and then to get rid of our credit card, we have to go back to our sister in our house, because since it's an important item, we can't just toss it. We have to store it, and the way to store it is to go back and see your sister. So we're gonna do that. It's also convenient because since we only have one of the 2 abilities that we need, we're going to just face some enemies on the way to and from our house so that we get more psi powers. Each time you face an enemy, whether you win or whether you run away, you do have the chance to learn a psi power. So that one was 2, that's really good. I'm not going to check whether we have it yet because we still have to get all the way back to the house, so there's not much point. We'll see if we can get a bunch of them, and hopefully one of them is the right one. That was another one, that's good. If you were going for world record in this category, you wouldn't accept any run where you didn't have both Psi Shield and Quick Up after you're done grinding with the Starmen. So this already will not be world record just because we didn't already have both of those abilities. But this is a way to guarantee that the run will finish. Because otherwise it can be really frustrating to grind this category. You also don't have to give your credit card back to your sister, but I want to make sure that we have the extra safety of 1 more medicine slot. Because that's what it gives us. It gives us 1 more inventory slot to fill with medicine for when we fight the final boss. So we're gonna attack the stray dog. Maybe get some more psi powers. No more there. We're almost out of the encounter zone, so at that point I'll check whether we have the ones we need. This is Wally. He appears to be a farmer. I'm not sure why he's attacking us, but he does frequently. There's also a hippie that attacks us. Not sure why. Okay, good. So we have both the Psi Shield and the Quick Up. The Psi Shield puts a shield that protects us from certain types of attacks. The Quick Up increases our speed so that we can go first. And so now we're going to go back to the department store and just load up on medicine. And so we're going to buy a whole bunch of Life Up creams. That's what it's called in English, Life Up cream. In Japanese, I think it's closer to potion. And we're going to buy 7 of these. So if we couldn't get rid of the credit card, we would have had only 6 slots for them. But having a seventh Life Up cream, it gives you the option for 2 more bad hits from Geeg, which is some more wiggle room. It's good to have. Oh, not that one. That's expensive. Okay, so we have all 7. We're going to head out, but first we're going to save. Because there is an element of RNG to the beginning of this fight, we need to go first, because we need to put up our shield before Geeg can attack us. So if we don't go first, we need to reset until we do. But I'm gonna give it a try. So we're gonna finally see the final boss. Geeg is an alien who is terrorizing the world right now. And so we're gonna use our Psi Shield really quick. It didn't work. So that noise means that Geeg's preparing to attack us, so we're gonna reset and try again. And so we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to try to use the Psi Shield before Geeg and attack us. Because the size shield makes it so that we take a lot less damage. If we don't get it up in time, we'll take more damage than we can, and it just... we would die on our next turn. Okay, so we got it up in time. You see now we still have 83 life, which is great. I mean, Geek did a lot of damage, but not so much that we'll die. And so now for our next turn, what we're doing here is using the quick up. The quick up increases our speed so that we almost always will go first. There's a chance we don't, but almost always will go first. And so now it's a waiting game. I'm just going to keep using the life up ability to increase our HP. And we're going to keep doing that until the sing ability appears. If you've played this game, or if you've played Earthbound, it has a similar mechanic for the final boss. You can't defeat Geek by attacking. You have to wait until you get the sing ability, because he's too powerful. And instead, you're going to defeat him by singing. So we keep healing. That's a pretty low HP, so we're going to use the life up cream right now. Okay, now the sing ability has appeared, so we're gonna sing. We're gonna have to sing 11 times to defeat Geek. So that was the first one. He cut it off really fast before we could get very much singing in. The way that Geek's attacks work, he can do anywhere from 30 to 46 or maybe a little more damage. So we want to try to get 2 sings per medicine that we use. So for each life up cream, we want to be able to sing twice. But sometimes that won't be possible. And so that's where having an extra life up cream gives us some extra wiggle room here. Because it really varies how much damage you take from Geek. And so we're going to be playing kind of like a game of chicken with our life total. We want it to get low, we want to let it get low, but we don't want to let it get too low. So 39 would be risky. I'm gonna use the life up cream here. Yeah, and he did 42, so there's no guarantee that's what he would have done if I hadn't used the life up cream, but very possible. So good move there. Yeah, 38's pretty low, so I'm gonna do it again with the life up cream. That's unfortunate that both of those only had 1 sing on them, but we're gonna try again. We're gonna sing again. The reason that we're singing, the way that it ties into the game, is that throughout the game we were supposed to go around and collect melodies all over the world. But we didn't do that. But the game doesn't know that. The game thinks that since we got here, we got all the melodies. So it lets us sing. And so this song reminds Geek of his childhood. And eventually we will overwhelm him. Nine is low, but we're not dead, so we're gonna use another life up cream. $34, that's pretty low. Life up cream is the play here. And so in these fights, it really does make a difference if you have a few more or a few less HP. After we're done fighting the Starman, it's possible to have anywhere from like 105 to 120 HP. And if it's too low, we would fight the Starman again to get more HP. 114, which is what we have, it's pretty average. It's in the middle. It's not terrible. It's also not great. It could be better, because sometimes just having one or two more really makes a difference. But that's why we have the extra life up cream. It will help us out. Okay, there's 2 more left. And we're gonna have to use the last life up cream, but that should be okay. It's possible to get 3 sings in on your last life up cream, so we do have 1 to spare. We're not in danger with this. And so we get through more and more of the song as it goes on. Geeg is letting us sing more of the song until eventually we sing the whole thing. But not this time. Alright, we need to sing one more time. This will be the 11th time we sing. Here we go. And there you have it. We've defeated Geeg at level 18 in about 30 minutes. We have sung the song of his childhood and overwhelmed him with memories. So he's gonna run away, never to be seen again. Except that's a lie. This game ends on a cliffhanger. But the time doesn't stop until the credits are over, because there is an input after the credits. But that is the bulk of the gameplay. So you have just seen the Mother 1 Breadcrumb Glitch any % category. Thank you so much for watching. And just some notes about the run and how it would look in a marathon. So this route is a specific route that uses some new RNG manipulations and a safety backup strategy to make sure that it'll finish for a marathon. This is a really cool category that hasn't been shown at marathons before because of some of the unsafe aspects to it, but this route really mitigates a lot of those risky parts. There is still the possibility, though, in the last fight with Geeg that he could attack first at a point where it just kills you. And there's not much that can be done about that, but because I'm going to be playing it on the Nintendo Switch version of this game, I'm going to be able to rewind it. So that's the backup in the event that run-ending RNG does happen. I'll use the rewind ability to be able to go back before that happened and make sure it doesn't happen. So I'm really excited about that because, like I said, this category hasn't been shown at marathons before because there wasn't a way to deal with these things. But now we have them, and I really hope that I can show this to some more people. The credits are about 3.5 minutes, 3 minutes 40 seconds in total, so this is a great point for some donations, some donation incentives to be read at a marathon. I can also use this time to wrap up and you know, give my final words and my shout outs so that once the run ends, we're ready to be done. I know we didn't see much of the story here, but if you are interested in learning more about the game, I really do recommend that you play it casually, but it is rather difficult. So if grind heavy RNGs aren't your thing, I recommend playing it on the Switch because, as I already said, the Switch's rewind function is really useful for showing this at marathons, but it's also really nice for helping make the game more accessible to people who might not be interested in a really hard, grind-heavy old RPG game. Save states were my friend when I played this casually. Okay, so when this finishes scrolling up, there's going to be one A input. I'm going to press the A button and to be continued will appear, and that will be time. Time. Alright, awesome. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you liked it. I would really love to show it off at a marathon, and I'd be really excited to bring it to more people with this new route. But thank you for watching.